Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. I want to talk about what my vision of a Star Citizen 1.0 full release looks like, because quite genuinely, it might not be too far away. So I'm talking about a minimum viable product here for Star Citizen's persistent universe, because Star Citizen aims to be an FPS MMO with loads of spaceships, star systems and gameplay area, a dynamic economy, industrial jobs, fun combat, and yeah, tons of missions and content to keep players playing. Now, bit of a disclaimer, this is not an exhaustive list, and there are dozens of mini systems and features that I'll sort of be glossing over or bundling into other features, and this is just what I reckon they're aiming for a 1.0 commercial release for the game, and it is based on a reasonable amount of logic and sort of experience knowing what CIG want to put into the game. We aren't too far away from the reality of it being a game either, and a 1.0 release. So we've got Squadron 42's core features being brought into the game this year. We've got Alpha 3.23, which is the next major patch, which has a lot of them. 4.0 is going to be later in the year, which is going to have server meshing, a new star system, and a load of other of the core features from Squadron 42 in as well. And yeah, Squadron 42's release is that short-term focus along with those other things, 3.23, 4.0, all that sort of jazz. But then it's the road to 1.0's release. Yes, there are going to be other patches before 1.0, but this could genuinely have a 1.0 full release by the end of 2025 or by sort of mid-2026. That's a lot of I reckon, but genuinely, it's very possible. CIG have recently been talking about building an internal roadmap to 1.0, and what I'm expecting in that 1.0 initial release is what I want to talk about today. Although there's a lot of overlap, I'm going to be roughly talking about two major groups of things: features and gameplay loops. Now, there are a ton of features and gameplay that's going to be getting refined. We've got a load of stuff in-game already, but that needs to evolve, that needs to expand, and it's going to. Feature-wise, a handful of star systems. Obviously, we're hoping to have 100 at some point, but I think for an initial release, they could get away with as few as 5 and maybe a dozen, so between 5 and a dozen star systems. Everything from that engine demo they showed at CitizenCon, so that's all of the pretty stuff from cool water to the Maelstrom destruction system of ships and buildings, various additional creatures, sort of expanding what they have with the Morak and the Copians to actually have the Muktak Yeti and Star Whales and Space Cows and all that sort of jazz as well. Server meshing, so getting that with 4.0, but with a 1.0 release, I would hope that they'd have dynamic server meshing and a refined network code ready. Although they might be able to get away with static server meshing and just a much better netcode, but yeah, I'm expecting a dynamic server meshing. Organization systems, so orgs, clans, whatever, in-game, they need better ways to coordinate. You want to be able to see players in orgs at a glance. You want to be able to have org wars. You want to be able to pilot capital ships and everything with them. They need better systems for ship and bed logging. All that sort of stuff needs to be solved. How can I go around with my org, with a group of friends, and play Star Citizen? Some of us log off, some of us log back in, all that sort of jazz. That all needs to work properly, and ships need to, they need to work out how they're going to have ships sort of be persistent in game, or are they going to sort of spawn out, whatever. All that sort of stuff needs to be solved. And then we need to have a load of system, weapon, customization, and modularity. Loads of modules, loads of weapons, mines, things like that as well. The ability to paint your ship in a much better way than we could just drop skins on it now. So all of that sort of customization needs to be in-game. We want a huge diversity of weapons and lots and lots and lots of modules to be able to change the roles of ships to some degree. But yeah, that system is vital for me to enjoy Star Citizen because I love customization. Then we've got things like the dynamic persistent economy. We don't want to have any more wipes or resets. 1.0 is released, no more wipes. We are totally live. And that does mean that they need to be able to track all these different things, and it's not entirely player-led, the economy. It is player-influenced, but it is very much a sort of, there's 10 NPCs sort of flying around for every one player doing things and affecting the economy. And part of that is that quantum simulation that we've seen from Tony Zerovic a couple of times. But what's going on in the sort of star system will be affected by player actions, missions generated, and all that sort of jazz, and will feed back into the simulation and go, this is what's happening in these areas. These are the sort of pirates and the encounters that you might get. You doing that mission has affected the price of these goods. all that sort of stuff being generated appropriately for the star system and the area that you are in at the appropriate time. We also need significantly better performing AI and AI using ground vehicles. Yeah, because we want to be able to fight a variety of AI in lots of different situations. But we also need NPC crew for our ships and AI blades. So basically, I want to be able to hire a crew for my ship. I want to be able to go, actually, I'm not going to hire a crew. I'm going to have this turret semi-automated by AI, plug in an AI blade. AI blades are going to be able to do a lot of other stuff as well, sort of a semi-autonomous control and additional function for your ship at the cost of computer slots. But yeah, that's the sort of expanded features that I'm hoping that Star Citizen moves into. Obviously, the big bugs and lots of the small bugs, gone. Lots of that stuff, no terrible bugs. Everything's sort of working, no one standing on chairs, no super jank, nice refined netcode, a sustained 30 FPS on the servers, or tick rate on the servers, and for if servers explode or whatever, they sort of, you don't even notice that their servers crashed because it recovers in an appropriate way, puts you on a new server. Great, awesome, all that sort of jazz. Now, we might need things like the ability to move region. We're not sure how big servers are going to be, how big shards are going to be with dynamic server meshing. Those are things that they also need to work out, obviously, but working that out, that's obviously part of a 1.0 release. Now, talking about gameplay loops and the sort of content that will populate some of those features. So obviously mining and refining, expanding those out, that they're super important to the economy, but lots more different types of mineable, and having those minables and refined goods actually affect the prices of things and be able to be built into things. Salvage, repair, and sort of the ability to drag a ship back to tow it to a port and actually fully repair it, that sort of stuff, and for those to be part of missions. So obviously we have a lot of that already to a degree. Obviously they need to expand out the repair systems so that you can actually repair ships in a lot to a proper extent and repair large ships as well. Medical gameplay. So they need to expand out medical gameplay so it's a bit deeper, but also death of a spaceman is going to be a thing with no more resets as well. Eventually, if you keep on dying with your guy and you keep on getting brought back or whatever, the medics will bring you back or bring back one of your clones. But if you keep on dying and you don't sort of like don't have a good enough medical service or whatever, maybe there's ways around it to some degree, you will or have the potential of permanently dying in game. You'll get like wounds and sort of like, oh well, your character needs to have an augment because they can't use their arm properly or whatever because of trauma with them coming back to the clone because the process isn't perfect. That's the sort of idea there, but there is a level of permanent death in Star Citizen that they want to have. Your sort of next character you make will get most of the stuff that you had, so there might be some level of death tax. Basically, they want mortality to be a thing. They want that to affect and drive your actions so you don't do silly stuff. They need to have refueling and services, sort of apps and things like that, because you want to be able to have a load of different apps with your mobile glass and be able to go, bam, I want to actually order this service. I want someone to come and refuel me. There needs to be like a system where you rate people and say, I only want people that have been rated 4 or more stars to come and rescue me or service me, rearm me, whatever, because you don't want to go, a 1-star guy, it's obviously a pirate pretending or whatever. Yeah, you need those sort of abilities to call out for service beacons in a much more refined way, and obviously refuel ships, rearm, repair, all that sort of jazz. Master modes, something that Cloud Imperium talk about a lot, but we want master modes in a good state. We want a good flight system. We want a refined combat system. We want a good level of balance, and obviously things like targeting for subsystems, scanning, expanded scanning, stuff like that. Engineering. So this is sort of all part of the multi-crew experience. You want physicalized components for all the ships. You want the ability to repair those components, change sub-components in them, move those components around, and you moving those components, unplugging them getting damaged will affect the ship that they're on. You also want the circuitry of the ship. You want to be able to open doors remotely. You want to be able to vent stuff remotely. You want to be able to reroute power remotely, and you want lots for players to do on ships. So not just engineering and sort of pilot and turret gunners, but a variety of other ship systems that could potentially be used, from scanning to comms to bespoke systems on a ship, from mining to salvage or whatever. An expanded level of bounty hunting as well. So obviously bounty hunting in the game at the moment is pretty basic, but you want to be able to capture and track NPCs and players to a much greater degree. Data as cargo as well. You want to be able to sort of have data that you can take places. Sometimes it's going to be vital that you get it there quickly. Sometimes you want to be able to, destroy the data rather than it fall into enemy hands. Hacking with a level of minigame. It's supposed to have some sort of pipes minigame or something, but you want to be able to hack things. Obviously, there's going to be hacking that you can just use like a tool that plug in that will sort of do it for you. But I also think there is going to be a level of where actually manually hack certain things. There's going to be base building, land claims. So you'll be able to go, I'm going to claim this piece of land in UE territory. If you're not in UE territory, if you're sort of like in the more Wild West, like Pyro or somewhere, somewhere more dangerous, you don't need a land claim. You can just sort of build your base, but you run the risk of it not being protected in the same sort of way. We also want the base building to be relatively expansive and have the ability to rent habs and hangars and customize them as well at points of interest and landing locations. And with sort of base building and part of that, I suppose it's not just part of that, crafting and fabrication of things. We know that that's going to be part of base building, but we want to be able to craft lots of different stuff, and we're going to be able to craft all the way up to sort of ships and obviously items and lots of different stuff. So there will be players being able to go to an entirely unpopulated system, go there, make a base, and actually be effectively self-sufficient if they can find the materials they need to produce ammo and fuel and all that sort of jazz. Player shops and trading. Got ships like the Banner Merchantman that will make use of player shops, but the ability to do trades, the ability to have shops, maybe an auction house, stuff like that. Science and exploration. So this is a slightly more complex one that I think will expand over time, much more past sort of the initial release of Star Citizen. But I would expect to see things like surveying, so you can survey land and work out what's there, what's under there, materials and stuff. Is it a suitable place for a base? Data crunching, sort of, I'm going science data, I'm going to take that and make it into a sort of crafting for science data, I suppose. Farming, we know that farm is going to be a thing. And then some sort of other level of sciencey based crafting. Now, exploration is kind of a load of different things splashed together, and just having a wide gameplay area and things to find and sort of detect, and having a sort of expanded scanner system will allow for that level of exploration that I want in the at least in the short term. I think it's something they will expand out quite a lot. Things like stealth for FPS gameplay, that needs to be relatively refined. A law system that supports very well lawful, neutral and unlawful gameplay, and jurisdictions in lots of areas. So they sort of have that to a degree, but needs to expand out to be much more unexploitable, because obviously, especially when you've got effectively permadeath in a game to a degree, and lots going on in Star Citizen, you don't want the ability to someone just go lol and somehow ruin your fun when you're being lawful in an area they shouldn't be able to do that. So then there needs to be systems in place there to prevent people's like pad ramming you, sort of coming into your hangar and ramming you and stuff like that. So there's racing, loads of arena commander modes, so expanding that out so it's a much more refined experience. NPCs and characters as cargo, so literally VIP transportation, transporting people on ships that can seat people. More refined quantum travel experience. We know that they've got this sort of, as you're accelerating into quantum, you sort of start forming a corridor, and you have to sort of stay within that corridor, otherwise you sort of damage your ship potentially. But once you're actually fully accelerated up, you can go hands off and actually travel as normal. When you're quantum boosting, it's the sort of same. You're having to fight against the controls. And with that as well, you want a solid system for quantum snaring and dampening, and that to actually be fully explained. I think it's going to affect nav mode, basically. There's also a ton of mission content, dynamic events, points of interest, ships and vehicles, and that sort of stuff that needs to go into the game beyond that. So mission content and bundling that in with dynamic events, that is going to make the grind of the game appealing and enjoyable, right? I want something to do. Mission content. There's lots of stuff you can do yourself, like base building or trading or whatever, and hauling, but there's also going to be loads of missions that are sort of associated with that, and a whole range of missions beyond that that really make like the exploration gameplay, the science gameplay. They got good missions, they got good dynamic events, and they keep on making them, and you keep on having interesting ones because they're sort of like going to have this modular generation system and all that sort of jazz. That you're going to be enthused and having fun. Missions are what is going to make a large portion of this game. Obviously, points of interest, that leads into exploration, but also place to have mission content and more interesting points of interest. You do need aliens for this as well. They need to do all the alien architecture for at least some of it, and have encounters with the Banu, with the Xi'an, with the Tavaran, with, I suppose Tavaran are living in the UE, with the Kurthak, and with the Vandal. You don't potentially need to have all of the alien races in an initial release, but especially like not the Kurthak, for example, but it would be good to, right? I mean, you definitely want to have the Vandal in, and why wouldn't you, with Squadron 42 and the Vandal being the main enemies there, but it'd be good to have the Xi'an, Tavaran, and Banu. I'm also expecting sort of like a load more gameplay around capital ships, facilities for repairing and outfitting them, appropriate gameplay loops for them. And all of this together is far more than the sum of its parts. It does allow for big fleet battles, boarding, piracy, espionage, area control. You want to have that ability to have really great PvP with this, and to have this sort of very in-depth piracy system, but you also need to be able to, players to be able to trade as part of that as well, because you don't want pirates just blowing people up all the time. You want them to be able to negotiate. You want orcs to be able to fight over areas. And a lot of this is going to sort of be emergent to a degree. They sort of have the systems in place and then expect certain gameplay to happen. And they're going to be obviously refining that and tweaking that and trying to push towards some of this gameplay as they move forward with the game. But a lot of it doesn't need a specific system for. It just goes, well, all these systems allow for that, so that's what's going to happen. And beyond all of that, I'm expecting after 1.0's launch for loads more to happen. Deeper exploration and discovery, more systems, more points of interest, more ships. The thing is with all of this as well is that we're actually pretty close to having what I think is a 1.0 release now, because a lot of that stuff is already in-game to some degree. Not all of it, not base building and things like that, but that's either coming into the game real soon in 2024 or is already there. It needs refinement, needs a load of extras, some of it's like a placeholder, but it's not too far away. Like, I'm interested to know, do you think it's possible that we could be looking at a 1.0 version of Star Citizen release by the end of 2025 or sort of mid-2026? Do you agree with me that that's a possibility? And if so, what else would you like to see in it? Do you think any of those features that I mentioned probably wouldn't make it? I do concede that there is supposed to be a load more stuff going into Star Citizen, over 100 star systems and stuff like that at some point, but for a minimum viable product, for the first release of Star Citizen, and then for them to add more, that's basically what I'm expecting. And I'm sort of interested how that compares to whatever you think. Yes! Oh, other things. Please don't forget to check out NordVPN. NordVPN, great VPN. We advertise it on the channel. I use it. I think it's super useful as a sort of like an extra tool in my security toolbox, but also very useful if I want to go, I'm in America or I'm in Japan, because there's some anime that's exclusively released there. Check those links out below, because discounts and all that sort of jazz. We also have every month a ship giveaway. We're giving away a Hornet F7C Mark II at the moment. Just comment on any of my videos made during the month to be in for a chance of winning that. And if you'd like to further support the channel, there is a join button under my videos. There's Patreon. There's a load of links below. They're all like affiliate links and stuff. You use those products, you get discount, I get money. Thank you so much for watching until the end of this video, and please tell me what you think in the comments below.